welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. That's Bud Elliott. I'm Chip Patterson coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 tailgate, which they say is littered with stupid, and that is not the way we act here in the Cover 3 tailgate, okay? It's not littered with stupid. It is smothered with stupid. This is the first round reaction to a first round where all of the favorites won, to a first round where all of the favorites won by double digits, to a first round which exposed both our issues with the college football playoff format and also our issues with the way we talk about this big dumb sport. I promise I want to talk the football here because while the matchups weren't like great, I think that we've got some notes to spin forward. And speaking of spinning it forward, before we get out of here, we will be giving you our way too early look at those quarterfinal matchups. Currently 4:41 left in the fourth quarter as I'm looking at it. Ohio State nursing a 42-10.
It's going to be a long-ass 4.5 minutes for the Vols.
Listen, for all the money that was spent on Touch Tunes in Columbus playing Rocky Top, I mean, I was hearing reports of like hundreds of dollars being spent just playing Rocky Top on various Touch Tunes jukeboxes in bars. I saw videos of just orange clad like Rocky Top breaking out at restaurants, bars all over the place. That was not the way you wanted to start. Do we want to start there, or do you want to work backward?
No, we can work our way. This game's not over yet. We'll start elsewhere.
All right. So I thought that the most competitive game of the day was Texas 38, Clemson 24. Fair?
Yes.
Yeah. Low bar to clear.
Correct. When Texas has a lot of success running the football, Bud, is that good Texas, or is that the flaw that Clemson's had all year kind of showing up?
Some of both. That looked like Texas taking apart A&M, which was, as we discussed, kind of the only data point Texas had against a good team that was not named Georgia, right? Because remember, they got Florida with the third stringer. They got Mississippi State with the second stringer in his first start. They got Kentucky with the backup. They got Michigan when Michigan was really in quite a bit of disarray. That was like our lone data point we had. It was like, okay, Texas has shown this one time. It's against a real non-passing quarterback, although the kid's improving for A&M, but they did run the ball pretty well that night. This looked like a continuation of that. Banks came back. He destroyed the guy across from him a couple of times. Like some of these holes were pretty huge. Like the one long run, obviously, was Texas did like the fake check with me thing. And then not the full chin strap snap off of that. I don't think you can do that in college, but like just check with me and then all of a sudden look back. They got a couple guys on a knee here. Is Tennessee going to score here? Like cut this to a non 32-point win? I don't know.
And plant a flag afterwards.
I thought Texas was pretty damn impressive, and yet some concerns about the Texas pass defense because they have not really faced a bunch of or really any decent quarterbacks this year.
Right.
And Klubnik dealt pretty well in this game. So if they have to face an Oregon, if they have to face this version of an Ohio State, I could see some problems.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Texas this year, and Sark said after the game, too, when he was asked about the run game, he said that part of it was just like he said, the big change tonight was that they stuck with it. And he said, I was very guilty of not doing that a lot during the season, which is true because Texas really did not run the ball as well. But I don't think that was just Sark not sticking with it. I think a lot of it was it just wasn't effective. But this was their best rushing output of the season by far. They had their best coming in was 250 yards on 47 carries against Kentucky. Tonight, they had 292 yards on 48 carries. So they averaged over 6 yards per attempt. If you take out the sacks, it goes up to 6.7. They were over 300 yards. It was just offensively, they were very good. Quinn Ewers was very effective, very efficient, and didn't have to do a whole hell of a lot, which was probably good for him. But I think that the biggest key was, in the red zone, we talked about it all week. They had 5 possessions, scored 4 times, 24 points, and it was because the run game was working in the red zone. Like, that's the one thing that had really been impacting them because Quinn is, I've gone over a billion times, struggles to throw the ball when the field gets smaller. So getting that was huge for them. On the other side, what was it, like halftime, where I texted the group and said, Cade Klubnik's a flat track bully?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he just completely starts going off in the second half against Texas. So I was impressed by Cade in the second half. I was not that impressed by him in the first, but I think that was a good performance by him to get back in. And I think more than anything, like Moore having a big game, Wesco not having a huge game, but making some good plays, and just Clemson kind of almost resembling the offenses of the past where they had good receivers. Like, it wasn't enough today because Texas is clearly a better football team than they are. But I have optimism about this team going into 2025 that I wasn't really super high on coming into this one.
So I think your point about the other receivers with Bond not available is a really important one. To go back to the run game, so Texas backs 38 for 290. Okay. A couple explosive mixed in there. Take out the 77 and 38. That's still what? Like 175 on 36?
Mm-hmm.
You'll take that all day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's Quinn Ewers. Hey, man, just be a bus driver, not a fighter pilot. Right? Like, if that's all Texas needs, if they're going to run the ball like that, it's a pretty good defense. Now,
I don't think they're going to run the ball like that the rest of the way.
I would agree. But, I mean, do we think the right tackle's okay? Because Banks looked damn good tonight.
Banks looked great.
Williams got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the backup's not that bad. Remember, he played pretty well against A&M. And
so this was like
kind of okay against Georgia.
Goolsby.
This to me was, Steve Sarkisian has, and I took a sort of a Clemson shot at this story. We got our friend Kanata Edwards producing the show right now. He is the stellar producer for the Eye on College Basketball podcast. I say this lovingly. Matt Norlander is always going to tell you about the story he wrote on CBSSports.com when he writes the story on CBSSports.com. So the story that I wrote on CBSSports.com about this game, the column on this game, was that what Clemson saw was what Clemson needs to do. Because what Steve Sarkisian does is he still commits to high school recruiting. He still commits to player development. And then he uses the transfer portal to be able to supplement that, to be able to enhance positions of need. And I pointed out in the story that wide receiver and edge rusher, like those are places that you go to the portal for. But the reason why you can sustain injuries along the offensive line and the reason why you can have depth along the defensive line, lose Tavondre Sweat, lose Byron Murphy, and still be good is because you've recruited that wealth out of high school. You have developed that well. And I think that that's what we see with this Texas program. And the reason why I continue to credit Steve Sarkisian by saying, like, you have gotten the modern roster construction. You're on my short list of coaches that I feel like is doing it well. Look, you're at Texas. I get it. There is a resource advantage that a lot of coaches are like, yeah, I wish I had Steve Sarkisian's resources as well. But you still have to make those decisions on what you're going to prioritize. You still have to make good assistant coaching decisions in terms of the development part of that. And so I think that the way that Texas has gotten to this point and sustained all of the injuries that they have sustained and still been able to maintain this little 2-year run from the start of last season to right now really feels like sort of proof positive that he's among the coaches that are doing it really, really well right now.
If I had said like some of the biggest questions about Texas, like go back to the start of this run, would have been quarterback, but not physicality, we would have probably laughed at that. But they're a pretty physical football team.
They are a physical football team, and quarterback is 100% a concern moving forward.
Yeah,
but I still think Quinn played well.
Yeah, Quinn played great. I mean,
yeah, totally.
His ankle looked a hell of a lot better. He was able to move around a lot better than he has been recently. So I think that's a big thing for them going forward.
When we get into the other side of the break and deeper into the show and later into the night, I'll give you my my super galaxy brain Quinn Ewers Texas thought, but that's going to come with the Texas Arizona State preview. So hang around for that. How's that for a tease?
Can we talk blowouts for a second?
Yeah, it just like general, like first round, like what does it mean? Oh man, Tennessee scored.
I'm sorry, Chip.
Wait, again or
No, it's 42-17.
all right, cool. So
we're gonna lose it both ways. It's just like whatever you had, it ain't cutting. That's all right.
in the 4-team era, 12 of 20 opening round games, okay, were decided by 17 or more. This is like not more blowout-y than what we had in the 4-team era. It's not. Like, we had a couple close games for the most part, though, like 17 plus more than half the time.
Somebody is smoking a cigar on the Ohio State sideline.
Looks like Shane Gillis.
It looks like Shane
No,
Gillis.
it's Seth McLaughlin.
Is that Seth?
McLaughlin.
All right.
Yeah.
Smoke him if you got him, right?
Yeah.
Hell, well, he
Also,
did
hey,
beat Tennessee, so
Well, we'll hit that game when we do, but remind me to shout out the backup center because against Michigan, he had some real iffy snaps, and tonight they looked okay.
the offensive lineup,
yeah. Well, all right. So let's stick here with the blowouts because I did want to. It was a conversation point, and we should address it in a concerted, condensed way. I hear that's good. I do think
and condensed.
Yeah, I do think there are valid reasons to look at the results from the first round and say something is wrong. I think that your point that it mimics what we got about the what we got from the previous format is 100% fair. But like I don't want to cut you off because Tom's been discussing this for weeks at this point.
Yeah.
A fair seeding of the bracket. How about this? A fair seeding of the bracket might not change first round blowouts, but it might save us from 2 rounds of blowouts.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, does that sound fair?
Yeah, I mean, I the big takeaway from this weekend shouldn't be which teams deserve to be in and which teams shouldn't have been in to begin with, which is what everybody's been arguing about. It should just be that we need to get rid of conference titles for the buys. Just do it straight up based on the ranking. The top 4 teams get buys. Everybody else plays in the first round. Because at least theoretically that sets up more competitive matchups. Because you look at what happened this year with both Boise and Arizona State getting buys. Notre Dame probably is a top 4 seed. They blow out Indiana. They probably weren't playing this weekend if you just go straight off of rankings. Penn State may not have played this weekend. If it was Penn State that didn't get the top 4, it might have been Ohio State who got a top 4. So you're saving yourself, or Texas, you're saving yourself these kind of situations where you're getting all these double-digit kind of games in the first round, and then you're saving it for the second round because now Penn State's moving on to play Boise, and who's playing, and then Texas is playing Arizona State. There's a high likelihood we're going to get 2 more blowouts next week, and that kind of sucks. So you could kind of at least mitigate it. You're never going to avoid them, but at least that format would probably do more to lessen the likelihood. But another factor worth considering is these games were all on campus. It wasn't just 4 blowouts. It was the 4 home teams blowing out the road teams. So next week, when we get to a neutral site, that might neutralize some of the blowouts itself. Although, of course, in the 4-team playoff, every game was at a neutral site, and we still had blowouts.
So I absolutely love that, like, the home teams got the blowouts here, because I do think that puts more emphasis on wanting to play for that home game. Hopefully, like, all 4 of these atmospheres kicked ass today. For all this garbage, people are like, oh, they're not going to sell out these tickets and stuff. Any of these stadiums look like they suck to y'all? Because, like,
no.
They're pretty damn loud, man. Like,
I'm so mad that those people got in cheaper than we thought they would get in. Oh, that makes me so angry.
What kind of terrible, like, loser ass narrative is that? I don't know. I think, like, that helps, like, preserve the regular season importance more, like something to play for. And I do still think that if we're going to have conference championship games, you got to have them, like, count for something. So like being able to play your way in off them makes sense. But I think to Tom's point, yeah, you should probably have to be top 6 in the committee rankings to get the automatic bye. I think like if you're 6 and you win your conference, I think that's fine to be in. But I think if you are, like, outside the top 12, basically, to get a bye, that seems a little bit extreme, right?
And conference champs still get an automatic berth. Treat it the same way they do the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Like, you win the Mid-American Athletic Conference, you get the bid, but nobody's saying, oh, they have to be in the top 4 seed.
Right.
No, but we are definitely picking them to knock off whatever lame ass 5 seed. It's going to be sitting there in the Midwest, ready to get taken down.
Get the hell out of here, Creighton.
Come on. Ohio's coming for that ass. Unlike the MAC, which is probably going to lose its first round game as a 15 seed. But to your point, right now, already at FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every moment more, and we will preview these matchups more specifically a little bit later on. Texas, a 13.5-point favorite against Arizona State. Penn State, a 10.5-point favorite against Boise State. Those are two teams that received byes to the second round based on the format and find themselves as double-digit underdogs in the matchups where they are a top 4 seed.
Penn State is a bigger favorite against Boise at a neutral site than it was at home against SMU.
Which, if you played that game again, do we think that would be the case?
No, but
coming up on the other side, digging into Penn State and SMU, a game that kind of like broke everyone, but definitely Kevin Jennings and more next. Back here on the Cover 3 podcast, and the game has gone final, as we mentioned just a little bit ago. Final score, 42-17. Ohio State are the winners. Don't have any sound up, but we've got the rose being awarded to Ryan Day. A little interesting that everyone is accepting their invitations to the bowl games. After advancing in the bracket.
It's an Oregon-Ohio State Rose Bowl, same as it ever was.
So that's New Year's Day, 5 p.m.
Yeah. Which is great.
Hell.
Yeah. I mean Ohio State, Oregon, Bucks and Ducks, Rose Bowl, 5 p.m., New Year's Day. Like, let's go.
You guys have done the Rose Bowl, right?
No. Actually, I was sharing this with somebody recently. I was speaking, I said, the Sugar Bowl does I said this, yeah. Sugar Bowl does a great job of taking care of you. Orange Bowl does an awesome job of taking care of you. Like, can speak to those for sure, as well as, obviously shout out to Charlotte Sports Foundation, everybody, associated with Duke's Mayo Bowl. But like, I cannot speak to the Rose Bowl specifically, but
I thought the experience of the Rose Bowl was really good. But actually being there, it's one of the few things that people talk up in our sport. And it's like, oh, it's better. Like, it actually is just, it feels different, That
was my guess, is that when you're in the stadium for the game, it's awesome. But you're also having to deal with like navigating traffic and
well, yeah, if you miss the media bus against the police escort, then yeah, that's going to be a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And it is hard. It's very hard to get down to the field. At least in 2013, like I was trying to lead the press box to get down there for when Jameis threw the ball to Benjamin, and like almost missed it because like you got to weave your way through like a lot of like.
It's an old stadium.
I mean, any other wide receiver would have missed it too, but thank God it was Kelvin Benjamin, who's like 6'8" and like.
I'm kind of anti-Cotton Bowl actually, because we got. Well, okay, yeah. From the media perspective, yeah.
No, not on that.
Okay, I'm sure they cleaned it up. This is when Jerry World was new.
No.
Do you remember when Tyreek Hill tore up FSU in 14? The Oklahoma State, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. I'm trying. I don't remember the game.
I had the viral tweet about how Jameis runs like a pregnant woman. But like, it was so late because the game lasted forever. They locked up, like all the media got locked up there, like in one of the hallways. And like, it's kind of weird. Like, I'm not gonna die up here. But I don't know if I'm gonna get out. Sorry. We got to talk Penn State SMU. It's a total tangent.
Do you think this game would have been different if Kevin Jennings was like? I mean,
if he wasn't freezing,
like. And I'm not gonna say I told you so, but didn't I say on multiple platforms with multi-platform excellence? SMU in turnovers away from Dallas was an issue. That in 6 games away from Dallas, they turned the ball over 14 times. And I acknowledge that some of that was 6 of them against Duke. But that's weird. What was Manny Diaz doing last year?
Oh, was he the DC at Penn State?
Oh, he was the DC at Penn State. And didn't he do a really good job of confusing Kevin Jennings and putting him in spots where he was seeing ghosts in Durham earlier this year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's wild that Penn State seemed to have all the answers to how to get Kevin Jennings seeing ghosts when Manny Diaz was the defensive coordinator for the Penn State Nittany Lions just last. I've never seen anything like that in football before, where you can connect those dots to suggest that maybe a game plan that worked very, very well in a game where if Duke had not missed 2 field goals, including a potential game winner that was blocked by Jafari Harvey, when he may or may not have jumped over the center in a way that may or may not have pissed off Manny Diaz enough to feed an absolute gem of a game plan to his former employer. I'm not recklessly speculating. I'm just presenting information in ways that can be connected.
I can't deny that happened, nor can I confirm. But I will say I don't think Manny Diaz had anything to do with Kevin Jennings throwing the ball directly to a Penn State player like 10 yards short of his target.
Especially when he was about to score a touchdown and then it gets run the other way for a touchdown.
God, not even that one. Yeah, no,
that one was you want to talk about 14-point swings in a game that finishes with a 28-point margin. Like Penn State was playing like ass and they were up 21-0.
Yeah, it looked a lot like Notre Dame, where the offense really wasn't doing anything and its defense was just kind of bailing them out. And clearly a little bit different with 2 pick sixes to spot you the 14-0 lead. But
I do think that they did a great job of taking away his first read.
Yes.
And I thought he was uncomfortable moving to 2 and 3. But also, Tom Fornelli probably could have coordinated the Penn State defense today because Abdul Carter whooped that ass when he was Savion Byrd had a 2.6 pass blocking grade today. 2.6. That's now look, these are instant grades. I'm sure the assignments were different, but the assignment fairly often when Abdul Carter's lined up over you is attempt to block him, and 0.6.
If I had $1 for every time in this game I saw Kevin Jennings move the running back over to the other side for protection to pick up the blitz coming from the other side, and then the blitz came from the side where the running back had been on, I'd have at least $10 today.
Dude, it was like Carter and Dennis Sutton, and they were laughing out there, and they were smiling out there.
If you had $1 for every time they successfully blocked Abdul Carter, you'd be like, "Oh, boys, I forgot my wallet. Can you guys? Do you take Apple Pay?"
Abdul Carter had the 18-yard loss when they were in the red zone that set up that field goal attempt that they missed. He had a sack that lost them 18 yards while he was literally being strangled by the left tackle. He had him in a chokehold, and he just dragged the guy until he got to Kevin Jennings anyway. It was hilarious.
One of the offseason talking points that we had about this team, which proved not to matter for the most part this season, but it did matter a lot today, was remember Missouri went and bought the SMU left tackle, right? Late in the window. That's going to be kind of tough, moving up to a power conference when Missouri's let's give this kid a big bag. It didn't matter against most of the teams they played in the ACC. It did today. That mattered a whole lot.
Also, the game got so out of whack that Penn State didn't really have to do anything on offense. They were just handing off for the second.
Is it the best home field advantage so far in the playoffs?
I think so. I do think, I see a lot of people still saying that the weather had no impact. I think you're kidding yourself if you don't think the weather impacted SMU.
Bro.
Yeah. They were freezing. You could see them shivering. They were not having a good time. Kevin Jennings was miserable. And once you get down, like I was saying too, part of it is mental. When you throw 2 pick sixes, that's going to kill you anyway. But that team was done. They were sitting there we're freezing for this. At that point, they just quit.
I'm
Then
very
quit. Quit's too much of a quit's too
I
hard.
don't want to use the Q word, but yeah.
But their confidence was completely wiped out, and they were just miserable. Period.
right. They were zapped. Like
Mhm.
whatever your juice is, whatever your confidence is, whatever your Michael's secret stuff. Shout out to Space Jam. Like, you just lost it 100%.
I mean, their average EPA per play was negative 0.45.
Yeah.
And then
Snapping the ball meant you were closer to losing than not snapping the ball. That's a bad spot to be in.
they are not a bad football team, but they looked like a bad football team today.
Yeah.
Like they were just. It reminded me of Friday night's game. They were just completely outclassed.
Yeah, it reminded me of "Oops, I Crapped My Pants."
Mhm.
What did we think about Penn State going more tempo? Because this is 2 weeks in a row.
Or 2 games in a row.
Sorry. Yeah. We're right.
I've got them on the stoplight tempo. They've got like a green, yellow, red.
Mhm.
And it just seems like that's an Andy Kotelnicki, like, when we feel like we've got something and we're just going to ratchet it up, which is dangerous, but also maybe dangerous in a way for your own offense that if you don't do it all the time and you try to do it, you get that false start, which they did get at one time when they were trying to go tempo and it just didn't quite click. So it's it's a little bit of rhymes with cut,
Yeah.
This is that offense is not fixed. I don't.
No. But to Tom's point,
They didn't really have to be.
yeah, like to Tom's point, they're like, okay, well, we haven't done anything offensively, and we've got a 3 touchdown lead against a team that looks cold and scared. Yeah. We would like to go play for a national championship. Let's just hand the ball off and lean on these guys until they're done. That's exactly what happened.
Also, I would like to point out that James Franklin is undefeated in playoff games. So screw your narratives.
James Franklin has a better college football playoff winning percentage than Ryan Day.
It's true.
Clip it.
Ryan Day's only 500.
Big game James came here to play. Let's go.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You tell him, AJ Dub.
All right, we are final here, so let's do one more break, then we'll get into it. Coming up on the other side, Ohio State, what they showed and what they can replicate. What is the ceiling for the Buckeyes? We'll get into all that and more next.
CBS Sports HQ, giving you college football coverage unlike anyone else.
We're talking Big Ten.
Pre- and post-game coverage.
Are you encouraged with the way that this team responded?
Along with breaking news.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
Highlights and expert analysis.
That streak could be in jeopardy here.
Sure. What was your main takeaway from this game? How impressive was his domination?
That really changed the football game.
Let's go ahead and have some more fun.
Another wild ending.
The chaos continues. Turn to CBS Sports HQ.
Back here on the Cover 3 podcast. Again, the game is final out there in Columbus, Ohio. Just a couple touchdowns right out the jump. Hello. The easy button that we referenced, they hit it. They hit it early and they hit it often. One of the better passing performances for Will Howard this season.
Yes.
So how are we going to divvy out the credit? Because we got a lot of big names that can be associated with this. Is this Will Howard, the player? Is this Chip Kelly? Is this Ryan Day? Bud, you're in early. How do you want to look at this one?
I think that they guessed right on some stuff. I was talking to my buddy, Blake Action, he's a coach in Rhode Island, and we DM about games a lot. And so Ohio State has G. Scott, who came in as like a receiver-ish, but like he doesn't really have the athleticism to really be a receiver at Ohio State. He was in that Ibuka class, right? And they use him as kind of an H-back, and they correctly guessed that Tennessee would basically treat him as a tight end. And ultimately, that was a huge mistake because like Tennessee's adjustments to the motion of the H-back tonight created all sorts of problems on those first 3 drives. So like Tennessee basically had to scrap what it was doing. And it's like, wow, how the hell is Jeremiah wide open on a crosser again against this backer? It's like, oh, because they're treating him as an H-back when really, like, you kind of need to treat him based on his alignment and his width, because he's kind of too small to be like a true H-back. And I thought Chip Kelly just absolutely, like, I mean, he had the chalk, he drew it on the board, and he snapped it when he hit it to Tim Banks. Like, here, good luck, buddy. And then the other problem is Jeremiah is, I mean, he's 19, but we've been talking about this kid for 2 years. Like, guys, like, yeah, they signed Kanell and they signed Brendan Ennis and all these, like, these 5-stars. That's great, but like Jeremiah is like very, very different. I mean, he was when he cooked that 5-star Clemson corner as a junior, like, holy. I've told the story a couple times. Like, I'm trying to shoot a TikTok for CBS and I get it in one drive. All right, that'll work. That's not normal. So I thought Chip Kelly out-schemed the hell out of Tennessee, and they kind of won this game in the first 20 minutes because they guessed right what Tennessee would do. They got the looks they want. They were like easy button looks to. I don't know if he's the best receiver in college football, but like he's in the conversation now, and like he's 19, but he's got a full year under his belt. Howard put the ball where it needed to be. Those guys made great catches, but they schemed their way into the favorable looks early on, and I thought that was really big.
Overall, I think that it wasn't perfect, but there were signs of progress from the offensive line for Ohio State. They still did give up 7 tackles for loss, but 4.7 yards per carry on the ground. Not terrible, even if it's not elite. Quinshon Judkins didn't have a whole lot of room. Will Howard helped that a little bit with some scrambles, but just overall, compared to what I saw against Michigan, not going to argue that wasn't a much better performance. I thought Will Howard was great. 24, 29, 311, 2 touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith is incredible. Emeka Egbuka had a good game. Defensively, I think Tennessee's biggest problem is, and we talked about this a bit in Slack during the evening, like, nobody is scared of their receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And with this offense that Heupel runs, if you don't have guys that could put the fear of God of you as far as stretching the field vertically, it becomes a lot easier to defend what you're doing.
And Thornton was out for a little bit.
I think he was out. I mean,
Squirrel White went to the tent twice and then limped to the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're like, not only are we dealing with Tennessee wide receivers that on paper don't necessarily scare you, but we're dealing with their backups.
Yeah, and we're dealing with a really good secondary that they were going against. So when those guys who could take the top off were gone, Ohio State was just okay, we'll just keep everything in front of us and we'll go get the quarterback. And that's exactly what they did. Like, I think overall, like, Nico, you look at his numbers, he didn't have a good night, but I don't think Nico was the problem at all.
I thought Nico put the offense on his back with his legs.
Yeah.
Like, that was
Did you think that was permissive by Ohio State? They're like,
yes.
All right, we'll let this kid run and we'll whack him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
They cracked his helmet.
Like skinny ass California kid.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They literally cracked.
They should have been doing.
They're like, yeah, we're gonna literally crack this guy's skull open. Like, that's our game plan here. And they almost
said something. Did you catch this?
Mm-mm.
Like, kind of towards the end of the game, he's like, yeah, privately, Ohio State thought that Tennessee's corners were very gettable and that they had not been tested. I went back and looked, and I was like, okay, NC State really had problems passing the ball around the season. Kent State, Oklahoma was a disaster. Arkansas, I mean, I thought some of the concepts that Ohio State used down the field tonight looked a little bit like that Arkansas game, except they actually hit them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Arkansas had – remember how many times Arkansas missed throws in that game? Like, Tennessee, what are we doing here? Like, got guys running open. Florida, I mean, Lagway was a little better, but not great at that point. We think Milroe was hurt against Tennessee, or at least I do, based on how he was limping in that pregame video. Like, they do have decent receivers there. Kentucky, no. Mississippi State, no. Georgia didn't have Colby Young by that point in the season, right? So, not great. UTEP, Vandy. I think that's a pretty good point by Ohio State's coaching staff. Like, Tennessee had a really, really, really highly rated defense, but they had not faced good receivers often / at all, maybe.
I don't think the SEC provides good passing attacks.
No.
So Ryan in the chat has a good point here.
In 2024, I don't think the quarterback wide receiver combo, and that is not like SEC always has bad passing attacks. I'm just saying uniquely in 2024, our combination of quarterbacks and wide receivers do not have super dynamic passing attacks as a general standard.
This is a good point by Ryan. He's like, according to SP Plus, Tennessee, Texas, South Carolina, A&M, Florida, OU, Kentucky, Auburn, LSU, Ole Miss, and Arkansas all had better defenses than they did last year. Do you believe that, or was the offenses in the SEC kind of secretly sucked this year?
I think that defense in the SEC is always incredible.
It's rhetorical.
It's always been incredible, and that it's never been because of the offenses. It's never been that when the two good teams, like when the SEC teams with the good offenses played and they went like 41-38, that was a coincidence. Tennessee, listen, everybody who lost this week got their ass kicked. Everybody who lost this week was a team that probably shouldn't have been in the playoff, not because they don't deserve it.
Not because there's another team.
Not because somebody else should have been there, just because there were never teams that were going to do this anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There was nothing all that shocking. Like the underdogs all lost. Tennessee was completely overwhelmed. They've played like Ohio State's one of the best damn teams in the country, man. The only problem with Ohio State is Michigan. When they're not playing Michigan, that's what they look like. Like they'll kick your ass. But I think it needs to be brought up that since the start of last year, the Big Ten is now 4-1 in playoff games. It's won 2 straight against the SEC. And its only loss was to Notre Dame, who doesn't have a conference. So sorry to all you poverty conferences with your tiny little TV deals, but the Big Ten is just a little too big and too rich for you right now.
No, the Big Ten's too big to have a balanced schedule, and the SEC is too big to have a balanced schedule, and that's going to provide a lot of this like nonsense that we're dealing with.
Balanced schedule in the playoff. How come you can't beat them? Oh, did you beat Indiana? Congratulations.
I think I'm kind of settling into the spot where were we asked, I guess officially, were you ever asked like how many teams do you think can win this?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How many did you say?
Like 8.
Wow. Okay.
Because so many teams had shown vulnerabilities this year.
I was at 4 to 6. Whereas I had my 4, and you could talk me into number 5 and 6. And for the record, my 5 and 6 were Notre Dame and Penn State. And that was your Virginia 2019 NCAA tournament bracket luck, where like all the other good teams have gotten banged out, and all you have to do is beat Auburn and Texas Tech in the Final Four.
So I was asked before Carson Beck got hurt, so I considered Georgia. I don't consider Georgia anymore. Maybe I will after I see him play. But right now, I'd say Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, Notre Dame. That's it.
All the teams on my list are still alive. That's what I'm saying. I feel like what we have seen is the teams that I did not consider national championship worthy be eliminated from the competition for the national championship. I don't think we have discussed the seeding aspect of this, but like I think that I don't think anything's been unfair to a legitimate national title contender.
In a year with like as much compression as we had in the sport, I was just the blue chip ratio teams plus Tennessee. I thought like if Nico played unreal somehow, they could. But like no SMU, no Boise, no Arizona State, no Clemson.
Yeah.
Couple other notes on this. We talked about how important it was for Ohio State not to bang their head against the wall and run on first down. In getting up 28-10, they threw the ball 9 times on first down for 96 and 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. So made it easier to run the ball too.
Yeah, isn't it wild?
Funny how that works.
And a little more tempo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. TreVeyon Henderson also looked like he had a very different gear tonight.
Yeah.
That's if they've kind of like video game style here. If his kind of like energy level still up here, that's that Quinshon Judkins money. That might be like money well spent. Because Tennessee's not slow on defense, and he's outrunning them a lot.
All right, let's look ahead. So let's go chronologically. We'll start with December 31st, the Fiesta Bowl. Penn State, Boise State, Broncos back home, where they set the world on fire with an upset of Oklahoma way back in the day. Trying to tap into all the nostalgia vibes. 2 good rushing attacks. Obviously, Ashton Genty going up against that Singleton Allen LLP partners at law. How does that matchup look to you?
I do not want this to come off as me being disparaging of Ashton Genty, because I am not. I think Ashton Genty is a very good player. He's been one of the best running back in the country all season long. Ashton Genty has not run against a defense like the one he's going to see in this game. That offensive line has not had to deal with a defense like the one it's going to see in this game. And if we think back to that first meeting with UNLV, how they were able to kind of pen him in, even though he got yards, he had to do it 3.5 yards at a time. I would wager that Ashton Genty has difficulty averaging 3.5 yards per carry against Penn State, because they are going to put 8 guys in the box and look at Maddox Madsen and say, "Go,
come on, dog, buddy. Come on, let's go.
Let's see what you got."
Yeah,
and I don't think he can. So I mean, I know you're an idiot if you're looking at Boise State as a big underdog in the Fiesta Bowl and saying they've got no shot in hell, but I don't think this is a very good matchup for them. I think if I was Boise State, I really wanted SMU to win today.
Bud first.
I like Boise's D-line a lot. So I think
second in the nation in sacks is not anything to like sniff at.
I think Boise also is pretty well coached defensively. They handled some of the go-go stuff from UNLV well twice, so we do that. Like, they do have the ability to kind of respond to some of the weird motion stuff and some of the shift stuff, which I don't think it's the same, but at least we've seen them handle some of that stuff. And it is important to note, like, this game got game scripted weirdly in Penn State's favor early on. In fact, SMU drove the ball on their opening drive down the field, right? And then Jennings threw that. It wasn't a pick, right? It was
a drop. Yeah. He could have easily
They went for it on fourth down. They had the perfect play call. And if Jennings had run for the first down, they would have been fine. But he tried to throw it to the admittedly open receiver, but it was not a great throw and also a drop. But that was the frustration, because you're like, buddy, if you had literally just stepped 4 more steps forward, you had a first down.
Like, the Penn State offense we saw today was meaningfully worse than they were against Oregon, than they were against Minnesota, I think, and probably also worse than they were against USC.
Yes,
it felt like a step back.
I remind you, Penn State was playing in 20-degree temperatures with 15-mile-per-hour winds too.
This is true. I mean, to the point where they basically refused to punt or kick. Yeah, it was. I'm just saying, if Penn State, if they were to get down early, it's not insane to think Boise could win the game. I don't think they will.
Here's what's working against Boise State. I think I saw, out of the 8 teams that played their first round game, maybe 7 of them, and I might only exclude Ohio State, kind of looked creaky early. Like, every one of them looked like they had taken some time off.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, every team kind of looked as a false start, substitution issues, got to call a timeout. It's just, it wasn't crisp. And I think that's going to be tough on an Arizona State and a Boise State, who are going to be in a similar position without the talent advantage of an Oregon and a Georgia. So, I think Penn State will be crisper when they are playing in the Fiesta Bowl than they were in all of the setting and scenario that they had with this kickoff.
So I think Penn State's 7-0 all time in the Fiesta Bowl.
Well, one of them was that Miami game, right?
So, I mean, this is a real battle of Boise Cinderella versus Penn State domination in the Fiesta Bowl. This is like 2 worlds colliding right here. There's a lot of narratives at stake.
Oh, well, listen, this was the other thing that I thought about for Penn State. Do I think at some point in this college football playoff, we will have our Penn State steps on the rake moment? Yes. I just thought it was very clear when they were playing so poorly and yet leading by so much that is not the scenario where they step on a rake. Maybe it is Boise State, but we'll see. Lots of time to break that one down. Lots of time to pick it here on the Cover 3 podcast. January 1st. Triple header, college football playoff quarterfinal action gets started with Texas and Arizona State. It's going to be in the Peach Bowl. I know Arizona State fans will be fired up to be in the college football playoff, but I mean, that's advantage Texas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. especially because I think you'd rather try to throw the ball in this Texas team than run it. And is Tyson back?
No.
Or is Tyson done?
I think he's done.
Okay. That's a problem for me. And I do like the kid they got from Michigan State a lot. The quarterback. I think he's pretty good. But
Sam Levitt's got in shout out to our guy Parker Stats of War on Twitter, does a lot of good stats research. He said the quarterbacks in the playoff are ranked by how much dog they have in them. Sam Levitt was near the top of his rankings. Sam Levitt's got a lot of dog in him. 100%. X-ray his chest. You will find canine.
Shout out to the guy in the chat who's telling me to watch Illinois dominated Penn State, and I need to watch ball because it's true. I've never watched an Illinois game in my life. I think
Tom,
Illinois dominated Penn State.
Yeah, that's what this one guy just said.
Tom, it is a college football playoff night. We've got a lot
dominated their shoestring.
We've got a lot of interlopers here. Okay,
they had like one of the biggest success rate edges in the entire year. And
Illinois dominated Penn State in their 21-7 loss. Boys, just accept it.
Which was probably closer to like 42-7.
We've got a lot of interlopers on the. This is a big audience. All right, Tom, don't get in your feels about it. Okay, it's like
that was funny.
It was
not feels.
Yeah. All right. No, I'm just saying, like,
take it back.
Understand when you're a tourist. All right, like we got some tourists in town.
But back to this game. I do think Arizona State has a decent chance to move the ball against Texas with their offense. My concern for the Sun Devils is I don't know how many stops they're getting. I don't think it's a great matchup for them.
That Texas defense continues to, in the back half of the season, played better than the squad that it looks like on paper, plays better than their statistical profile on the season. Like I can't explain it except to compliment the players themselves, the coordinator, Brian Ward. Like it's college football. Sometimes you go out there and you play above your head. You're just playing at a high level or a higher level than your competition. This is obviously an immense challenge on the athleticism and talent side of things.
Yes.
Yeah. It's also like have you seen this before? Because I one of the things the Big 12 lacks is NFL defensive linemen. They don't produce them. They don't recruit them. This is silly, but I'll ask it anyway. I know the answer is wrong. Would you rather have like the Texas D-line or the best all-star team D-line you can make from Arizona State's entire schedule they faced?
Texas.
I think it's probably wrong. Like if you could probably piece together like four, but
no.
I'm asking the question.
But do I get all of Texas?
I just want the starting
because that's
what he's playing every snap.
There's those four versus the best.
Don't get tired. Then none of that crap. Give me Texas. I mean, who's the best defensive lineman in the Big 12?
I mean, if you give me edge rushers too and backups,
like Lee Hunter from UCF just got a bag.
Oh, great! He got a bag. That doesn't
No, that's fair. Like he's
Bear Alexander just got a job at Oregon. I mean, that doesn't really mean anything.
and my neighbor at 619 New Road cashed in when the market was hot. You know.
Did you just dox yourself on the freaking show?
No,
I am a little worried that Arizona State
real ones know I'm on a different. I was on a different block of New Road, not the 600 block. But
can they block Texas?
No, I don't think so.
Clemson has seen it a couple times,
right.
Like Florida State was an absolute disaster this year, but at least like they gave Clemson hell red zone wise for a couple quarters, almost said periods. I don't know why I'm thinking hockey. Like Georgia, like they had faced some real defensive linemen. I don't know that Arizona State has.
I mean, not having Tyson is a problem. I think Scatabo can at least battering ram them for a while and try to.
Well, they also do the screen stuff pretty good, and they do. Yeah, and they do a lot of feeding the ball to the perimeter. Let Guillory and the rest of those guys go out there, just try to make plays. The difference is when you're doing that against Iowa State, That's a different level of defense and sort of back seven than what you're going to get against Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right.
Blowout. Okay, so they're 2 for 2.
Then Ducks and Bucks.
I'm like so much more impressed with Oregon today after watching the results of these games than I was entering the day.
Interesting.
Like Penn State dominated SMU and Oregon dropped what, 50 or
45.
high 40s? Yeah, on Penn State. And then Ohio State smokes Tennessee and Oregon, like they beat them. So I'm going Oregon.
I think it'll be another close game. I think it'll probably come down to a few plays here and there. I think it'll probably be another high scoring game. I lean Oregon, but I'm not overly confident in it. I feel like there's a very good chance that the winner of that game wins it all.
Ooh, love that.
Oh, so the winner of that game or the field?
Yeah, if you gave me the right odds, but I think that the winner of that game is the favorite.
Well, that's old,
on.
but that's old bracket mentality. Like when we get and again, it is only perfect that we've got Nada producing here, but when you have those Elite Eight matchups where you're like, I don't know who wins this game, but whoever does, they're going to go to the Final Four and win the national championship. Like those matchups, that's kind of what you've got right here. In this quarterfinal, in this Elite Eight of sorts, Ohio State, Oregon, winner moves on. And if they got that, and by the way, Starch Manning, great username. It says in the tailgate, Oregon got hosed with this draw. I love, and I've mentioned this before, but I love Dan Lanning's response. He said, look, we're trying to win a national championship. You're going to have to beat the best teams in the country. We play them first. We play them last. Doesn't matter.
I was going to say my galaxy brain take, and I know you've got one coming still, Chip. If I'm Oregon, I would rather play Ohio State first.
Yeah.
I'm coming off a bye. I'm fully ready. They had to play this week. And now, granted, they didn't have to play too hard because they kind of cruised to a win. But I would rather play them now than face them in the title game when I've played the last few weeks and maybe I'm a little bit banged up because this is as healthy as I'm going to be for the rest of the season. So give them to me now. And then once I get past them, it's all downhill.
For me, it's the receivers. Like I just much in the same way that, Ohio State didn't think Tennessee could cover them. Do we think Ohio State can cover Oregon this time around? And if so, why? Last time they did not.
Hold on. Do you think Ohio State can cover Oregon or Oregon can cover Ohio State?
I don't know that either can cover either.
I like your over, by the way.
When elite teams play, take the over. It's a new principle.
Ohio State did play really well in the D-line tonight, though.
Mm-hmm.
Vibes-wise, there was some Jack Sawyer. Like the one guy who cared way more than Ryan Day about the flag planting. He was like, no, sir. Y'all might have brought 30,000 people, but this is not happening today. Not for me.
But I also like Tennessee's offensive line has not been great. I think Oregon's offensive line is better than the Tennessee one that Ohio State faced tonight. So I don't know if they'll have that same kind of advantage because we've also seen that with Ohio State. That defensive line, when it's playing really well, plays well, but it can also disappear in some games. So that'll be a huge, like if they show up and play like they did tonight against Oregon, then you really have to like their odds. But if they don't, it could look a lot like the first game where Evan Stewart's just like, hey, this guy's got to cover me for 4 seconds. Let's see if he can do it.
So, Penn State, Boise State, Texas, Arizona State, it will build not just to that Rose Bowl, Oregon and Ohio State, but then Georgia and Notre Dame, which, as we are coming to you in our second straight late night instant reaction podcast, print it and put it in the contract. Kind of another banger, Georgia and Notre Dame. I know we talked about it last night a little bit. We talked about Notre Dame being a slight favorite. Georgia's a slight favorite now.
I'm mad at myself. I should have seen that coming. Well.
Any different thoughts?
No. I don't think I think Georgia can beat Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame wins far more often, especially if Carson Beck's not playing. Because unless Gunnar Stockton comes out and shows me something I didn't see in that first game, I don't have a whole lot of faith in Georgia's passing attack in this game. And if you're one-dimensional against Notre Dame, it's really tough to beat that defense.
It probably has to look a little bit like Irish Aggies for the Irish to win. Stockton making the same mistakes Wegman did, Riley Leonard like not making a ton of mistakes and just running around. Do we think he's going to win dropping back? I don't really, but man, he is super elusive in a way that Quinn Ewers is not, especially not a hurt Quinn with the ankle. So I think that's kind of their path to winning is him scrambling around, making plays. Like he is really, really slippery and is one of like the best sack avoidance guys we've seen in the sport in a long time. Georgia probably gets pressure. Like, can he avoid that pressure? But to me, that's kind of what it comes down to. Unless he's going to throw the ball really well, which maybe he will. I'd be a little surprised.
And that game, my goodness. 8:45 p.m. Eastern time kickoff, which could get delayed if the
always starts
so late.
Oh, dude.
We're going to be up here till 2 a.m.
Oh, my gosh.
There's some sponsors that should jump in to sponsor that episode solely. I don't want to throw them out there, but if you have any products that might help people stay really focused.
Rico's cocaine.
Snow game in the dome.
I was in last year, Texas, Washington, because Alabama, Michigan went to overtime. So what was already scheduled as a 8:45 p.m. Eastern time kick was getting delayed by 20 minutes and 20 minutes and 20 minutes because of Alabama, Michigan going to overtime. And so I went back for the New Orleans coffee, I think Liz Edwards has video of me maybe having a cardiac incident during the third quarter of that game. I just kind of needed to put my head in my hands, drink some water, and take some deep breaths for a little bit. But hey, we made it through.
Do we think can Georgia run game and screen the Irish enough to win?
Yes.
How many points? They have an over-under. What's the over-under?
44 and a half. And that's why I say yes.
Sure. In that case, yeah.
Yeah. No, listen, Georgia has a short field touchdown, a special teams flip the field play, and one good touchdown drive that can at least give them a shot to win. Because I agree with you. The Gunnar Stockton-led Georgia offense, a Georgia offense that has not been awesome or clicked on all cylinders across a 60-minute game against quality competition once at all this year. Fair?
What was the FCS team they played?
No, I said against quality competition.
Oh, wow. So now the FCS isn't quality football. Okay.
No,
you're an elitist. It's fine. Cool.
Hey, look, UMass ran the ball on them. Okay. So this has been a little bit.
If it ain't Power 4, Chip don't want to hear about it.
We'll see. Any other thoughts on the
It's kind of that's a good question. How many offenses this year have been great?
Do you know what's funny? Do you know what is the offense that comes to mind when you say that?
Army?
Oregon?
Oh, actually, Army and Oregon are good answers. But when you asked the question, I said healthy Georgia Tech.
They were good.
When Haynes King's healthy.
Honestly, Miami. Really damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There really weren't a whole lot.
And it be like that sometimes.
It do be like that sometimes.
You're asking 11 college kids to do their job at the same time in a 5-second window.
And this is Gen Z, right?
Yeah.
And they're freaking useless.
Useless.
God.
Defense season. Let's go. All right. Anything else before we get out of here?
Illinois would have won the ACC.
So,
I'm not
Yeah, but you guys have to think about it, don't
I
you?
did. Hell yeah. I did think about it. But I'm
only
not
because you guys are pretty damn good. Like, people don't realize Illinois was a good team.
right. And that's I saw a really funny comments like, not enough talk about how 9-3 Illinois got screwed out of this. How would 9-3 of Illinois gone against Penn State? Mercer would have won the ACC.
Michigan would have won the SEC based on what we saw tonight.
Wait, did Indiana lose to Ohio State by less than Tennessee did?
Yes. Oh, wait, no, Tennessee's garbage time touchdown might have changed that. But at the same time, Ohio State scored a garbage time touchdown to run it up on Indiana. But what was, let's see, what was the final score there? Ohio State beat Indiana 38-15, so by 23, and they beat Tennessee 42-17. So, yeah, 25.
So Indiana was more deserving to be in the college football playoff than Tennessee was.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to actually say that again.
I hope
clearly.
Lane's pissed.
I want to say that again clearly, that based on results against common opponents, which is one of the things that the College Football Playoff Selection Committee states as a way to judge teams, results against common opponents. One of the things that Indiana did was prove to be more worthy of inclusion in the college football playoff than Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the Tennessee team that lost by 25 beat Alabama. Who lost to Oklahoma by 21.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I understand that everyone spent Friday night and Saturday morning just dumping on everybody.
Everybody sucks.
Some people stopped, though.
Who's your
Lane. Yeah, Lane.
Did stop.
Has he tweeted yet, by the way?
You're
Because
right.
God, he had a lot of tweets while Indiana and SMU were losing, but for some reason when Tennessee was getting its ass kicked, Lane was just off the phone.
Hey, that dog ain't gonna walk itself, all right?
He wasn't walking a dog. He was watching the NFL. Okay. We will be back on Monday. And so we'll get Danny back in the mix. We will go through upon further review of all the fallout from the weekend, continued looks ahead, not just to these quarterfinal matchups, which will be about a week and a half away, but also our look at some of the bowl games that will fill up your holiday week. Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll be off. And I hope you are.
You were about to I was like, what?
Yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday we'll be off. I hope you are as well. Spending some time with loved ones, celebrating if you are inclined. Then we will be back on Thursday, Boxing Day, not just to celebrate Boxing Day overs in the Premier League, but also to get you set with some of the big game breakdowns for the New Year's games ahead. Locks on Thursday and so locks on Friday and so much more. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip _Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.